Welcome back to Beyond the Forbidden. I'm your host, and today we're uncovering something the corporations, governments, and mainstream media have been quietly hiding from you for decades. Something so pervasive, so normalized, that you've probably accepted it without question. Something that's literally inside your body right now. You're drinking plastic every single day, not just once, not just occasionally, constantly, and they've known about it the whole time. But here's what they don't want you to understand. This isn't an accident. This isn't a failure of the system. This is the system working exactly as designed. If you're ready to go beyond what's forbidden, beyond what they want you to believe, hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because what you're about to learn will change how you see everything you consume. Let's begin. Before we go any deeper, we need to understand what we're actually dealing with. This is the foundation. This is what they hope you never learn. Microplastics are particles smaller than 5 millimeters. But size isn't the real issue here. The real issue is that these particles are now a fundamental part of our environment, our food supply, and our bodies. They're unavoidable, they're inescapable, and the institutions that created this problem are still profiting from it. Let me paint the picture. Plastic production began in the early 1900s. It exploded after World War II. We've now created over 8 billion tons of plastic since the 1950s. Only 9% has been recycled. Everything else is still here, breaking down, contaminating, infiltrating. Here's where this gets dark. The plastic industry knew this would happen. Internal documents from major plastic manufacturers, obtained through Freedom of Information requests, show that as early as the 1970s, they understood that plastic was accumulating in the environment. They knew it wasn't biodegrading. They knew the consequences, and they buried the research. Sound familiar? It should. It's the same playbook used by other industries. Tobacco, oil, chemicals. Create a problem, profit from it, hide the evidence. Repeat. Now, when plastic breaks down, which takes centuries by the way, it doesn't disappear, it fragments into smaller pieces, microplastics. These particles are now in the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, and the bodies of virtually every human alive. Studies show the average person ingests between 39,000 and 52,000 microplastic particles annually. That's just from drinking water and eating food. If you're drinking bottled water, that number jumps to 90,000 particles per year. 90,000, the scariest part. We didn't choose this. We never had a choice. This was imposed on us through a system designed to maximize profit at any cost. Now let's talk about the conspiracy hiding in plain sight. Bottled water. In the mid-20th century, a marketing revolution happened. The water industry convinced humanity that tap water was dirty, unsafe, inferior. So what did we do? We bought water in plastic bottles at premium prices. We paid money to get the exact same resource available in our homes, but wrapped in plastic, and told it was superior. That was the lie. Research from major universities has found that bottled water contains an average of 325 microplastic particles per liter. Some samples contain significantly more. Meanwhile, tap water averages around 4 to 8 particles per liter. Better, but still contaminated. Here's what should make your blood boil. Water treatment facilities don't filter microplastics because the technology wasn't a priority. Why? Because the corporations profiting from bottled water had no incentive to make tap water better. A healthy, clean tap water system would destroy their entire industry. So they lobby. They influence policy. They keep the infrastructure underfunded. The bottled water industry generates over $300 billion annually. $300 billion. And that money flows directly to companies that knowingly sold you contaminated water while marketing. It, as pure test after test, reveals the same truth. Bottled water from major brands, store brands, premium brands, natural spring water brands, they all contain plastic. Because the plastic is leaching from the bottle itself. The very container designed to deliver pure water is poisoning it, but it gets worse. These companies knew. Internal studies conducted by major bottled water corporations found microplastics in their own products years ago. They didn't go public. With this information, they didn't recall products, they didn't change their packaging. They sat on it, they continued selling it, they continued profiting. This is what forbidden knowledge looks like, the truth that entire industries depend on, you not knowing. Let me take you deeper into the rabbit hole. The ocean, our food supply, the creatures we eat. For centuries, seafood was considered a pinnacle of nutrition, protein, omega-3s, essential nutrients. Then we filled the oceans with plastic, and nobody told you what that meant. Every organism in the ocean that filters water, mussels, oysters, clams, shrimp, is essentially a biological filter collecting microplastics. They're living plastic vacuums. When you eat these creatures, you're consuming everything they've filtered, including the plastic. A single mussel can contain up to 300 microplastic particles. An oyster can contain 50. Shrimp are equally contaminated. Fish, especially smaller species that filter feed, are filled with microplastics. By eating shellfish, the average person consuming a Mediterranean diet ingests approximately 11,000 microplastics annually. Just from seafood. That's on top of the microplastics from water, air, and other food sources. Here's what the seafood industry doesn't want publicized. They know. Marine biologists know. Institutions researching ocean health know. But there's no mandate to label products as containing microplastics. No requirement to inform consumers. You're eating plastic-filled seafood, and nobody is obligated to tell you. Consider the psychological manipulation. You're marketed seafood as health food. You're told it's sustainable, it's natural, it's nutritious. Meanwhile, you're ingesting thousands of plastic particles annually. The marketing is the deception. The truth is forbidden. This is where we venture into territory that makes most people uncomfortable because it involves acknowledging that you're being contaminated without consent. You're not just ingesting microplastics through water and food, you're breathing them. The air contains approximately 7,000 microplastic particles per person annually. These particles come from synthetic clothing breaking down, tire wear from vehicles, plastic bag degradation, industrial processes. They're released into the atmosphere, become airborne, and you inhale them every single day. These particles are small enough to penetrate deep into your lungs. They can cross into your bloodstream. They've been found in human lung tissue. They've been discovered in blood samples. They're in places they should never be. Researchers studied people with no occupational exposure to microplastics and found them in every single lung tissue sample examined. Every single one. This means the general population has been exposed and contaminated on a scale we're only now beginning to understand. The most disturbing discovery. Microplastics have been found crossing the blood-brain barrier. This is the biological defense system protecting your brain, and microplastics are bypassing it. They've been discovered in human brain tissue, in cerebrospinal fluid, in places that should be sacred, protected, untouched. Scientists are still investigating what this means, but ask yourself, if a foreign particle can reach your brain, what is it doing there? What does it mean for cognition, for neural function, for long-term health? This information is suppressed because it creates panic, it creates liability, it creates accountability. So it remains forbidden knowledge, known to researchers, hidden from the public. Here's the deepest conspiracy within the conspiracy. Microplastics aren't just plastic, they're carriers. As plastic particles break down in the environment, they accumulate toxic chemicals, heavy metals, persistent organic pollutants, industrial compounds, pesticides. The microplastic particles act like tiny sponges. Absorbing these toxins, they become contaminated delivery systems. When you ingest or inhale microplastics, you're not just getting plastic. you're getting a package of toxins that the plastic has collected from the environment. Your body is being exposed to chemicals at the microscopic level, substances that wouldn't normally penetrate into your system, but the plastic is carrying them directly to your organs, your tissues, your brain. Scientists have documented microplastics, with absorbed mercury, lead, and other heavy metals inside human bodies. They've found plastics that have accumulated organic pollutants banned decades ago, but still present in the environment. Every microplastic is a vector for chemical contamination. The health implications are still being studied because the long-term effects aren't fully known yet. But consider what we know from short-term research. Microplastics trigger inflammatory responses in animal models. They damage intestinal barriers. They accumulate in vital organs. Now imagine that continuing for decades. Imagine the cumulative effect of 50,000 contaminated plastic particles entering your body every year, year after year, for your entire life. This is what's being hidden. This is the forbidden knowledge. You're being contaminated with chemicals and toxins through a delivery system that's completely unregulated, completely undisclosed, and completely unavoidable. The question everyone asks, if this is so serious, why isn't anyone talking about it? The answer is money and power. The plastic industry generates trillions of dollars annually. They have resources to lobby governments, fund research that minimizes risk and control narratives. Major corporations depend on plastic. They're not going to admit their products are poisoning you. Governments benefit from plastic production through taxes and economic activity. They're not going to regulate an industry that generates that much wealth. Media outlets receive advertising dollars from companies profiting from plastic consumption. They're not going to run aggressive investigations into their own revenue streams. This is the forbidden truth. The systems that should protect you are compromised. They're aligned with the industries poisoning you. The story isn't being suppressed because it's false. It's being suppressed because it's true, and that truth threatens enormous financial interests. You're not meant to know this. You're meant to accept it quietly. Keep buying bottled water. Keep consuming seafood. Keep wearing synthetic clothing. Keep being contaminated. Because as long as you don't acknowledge it, nobody has to take responsibility for it. Before we close, here's what matters. What are you going to do with this forbidden knowledge? First, stop buying bottled water. Get a reusable bottle. Filter your tap water if possible. It's not perfect, but it's exponentially better than participating in the bottled water conspiracy. Second, reduce synthetic clothing consumption when feasible. Natural fibers still have environmental impact, but they're not fragmenting into microplastics in your body. Third, reduce processed food and seafood consumption where you can, especially filter feeding shellfish. Fourth, and most importantly, demand accountability. Contact representatives. Support policies that regulate plastic production and corporate pollution. Vote with intention. Make noise about this issue. They want your silence. Break it. Fifth, share this information. This knowledge is forbidden because it challenges powerful interests. By sharing it, by talking about it, by refusing to accept it quietly, you're undermining the systems designed to keep you ignorant. This is beyond the forbidden. The information they don't want public, the truth that challenges narratives, the knowledge that demands action. What you do with this is up to you, but you can't say you didn't know anymore. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Share this. And remember, the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to accept the narrative they're selling. See you next time on Beyond the Forbidden.